You're live. You're live.
Hello,
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so this is the inaugural Thingcast. I'm Robin Block. I'm the CEO of Creative EC and the executive producer of the Thing Expanded. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by all of you today. And I want to introduce you to the amazing team behind the Thing Expanded. And also tell you a little bit about what we've got in store, what the purpose of today's kind of get together is. So I'll start with our newest addition to the Creative EC team, which is Josh Weiss. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. And it's amazing to have you on the team. Josh has been working with us since we put this project into development, and he's a fantastic producer, journalist, writer. And if you get the chance, you should check out his oral history of the Thing, which is on Sci-Fi Wire. If you Google that, you'll find it. It's fantastic. And I'm delighted to introduce to many of you again, David Weiner, who's a long-term collaborator with Creative EC. So this is the guy responsible for our In Search of Darkness trilogy, soon to be quadrology, and In Search of Tomorrow. David was also the executive producer on our most recent release, which is Aliens Expanded, which if you haven't seen it, please do. I think it's like 8.6 on IMDb. So that's the kind of bar we've got to try and beat with this project. And finally, I'd love to introduce you to Ian Nathan, who this is his second project for Creative EC. His first was Aliens Expanded. Ian knocked out of the park. So welcome everyone. How are you doing, Ian?
I'm good. You might hear that I have a bit of a head cold. I am actually carrying infection. It's entirely fitting for this podcast. So if I sneeze or I splutter or I cough, nobody panic. I'm in a little safe zone here, but I am infected currently.
But start the conspiracy theories.
He's very method.
So just sort of talking briefly about what the plan is for this session today. Many of you, in fact, hundreds of you have actually written in, responded to our request for questions. So we won't have time to ask all of them, but we've highlighted the ones which we think are the most relevant, and I'll be like the question master. I wasn't supposed to be the question master, right? It's only because our dear colleague Dominic Wallace texted me at 2 a.m. last night saying he couldn't be here. And I thought, what on earth would stop you from being here? But it's the birth of his baby boy, which happened about 8 hours ago. So congratulations, Dom. So I'm filling in for him, and I'll do the best I can. And finally, one of our team, Andrew Dalton, is behind the scenes. Now, he'll be periodically pushing up some of the best questions that we get in the live chat on YouTube right now. So if you've got questions, put them up. And if they don't get called, put them up a few times. Make sure they're really good and relevant to where we are in this conversation. And hopefully Andrew will put them on screen and one of us will be able to respond to it. So without further ado, I think I'm going to get into it and start asking questions. So I'm going to start, Ian, with you.
Okay.
And you have picked 6E, right? So
we've got a very special grid where it's all very scientific, how we work out which questions are going to be asked.
So I think this is the right one. So will the documentary, I should probably ask, this is from Nathan Kraft. So Nathan, thanks for the question. Will the documentary explore fan theories about the ending?
Yes, is the answer to that question. It will explore fan theories throughout the narrative of the Thing. Obviously, the ending is a big deal for people. It's often discussed. I think what I would like to be clear about here is I don't expect the Thing Expanded to solve the Thing. I don't expect us to come out of the other end with everything underlined and ticked off, and we know what's happening, because that would spoil the Thing. We are certainly going to attempt to answer those questions and come up with solutions, but we've already been ordered by John Carpenter not to think that we will ever know the answer to the Thing. The joy is in not knowing and debating. So the answer is definitely we will going to really get into fan theories, but don't think it's about a scientific full stop.
Okay, I'm going to now pick on Josh. And Josh, I've got two key here for you, which is asked by... Oh, I've just lost my place. That was good. Is asked by Brian Mayer. I love the open-ended finale of The Thing. Can you introduce viewer theories and the eye gleam myth? So what's he talking about, Josh?
So the eye gleam myth. Oh, that's a popular one. So the eye gleam myth. It's I wouldn't even say it's a myth. I'd say it's confirmed by cinematographer Dean Cundey exclusively during the blood test scene. He took the liberty of either including or excluding a little reflection of the light in a character's eyes. So if you see a light in a person's eyes during the blood test scene, they're human. If you don't, they're the Thing. So if you look at Palmer's eyes, he does not have an eye gleam. And it was just for that one specific scene. So, and he called it like the spark of life. And so it only applies to that one scene. So if you try to apply it to the ending, to Childs and McCready, you're gonna come up short because he didn't do it for that. It was just for that one specific moment in the film. So just for the blood test scene, the eye gleam, it's I don't even know what you would call it. Eye gleam cinematography, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's yeah.
I won't give you away. Just to add to that, John Carpenter has a different take on this. I won't say what it is. Wait for the documentary to come. But Carpenter and his cinematographer aren't necessarily on the same page about the eye gleam.
The cinematographers are very proudly making their own movie in the shadow of a director. And I think in the years hence, they ultimately say, well, they might not want to talk about it, but I sure can. And I would point out it's pretty interesting that two films at the same time, Blade Runner with replicants and The Thing with who may or may not be the Thing. It's kind of interesting that around the same time, cinematographers were lighting eyes in a very special way to tip the hat.
Right. And I think the discourse always likes to use the eye gleam for the ending, but it was only for that one scene that Cundey took that liberty. So I think when people try to say, oh, the eye gleam at the end, John's like, that's total BS.
Yeah.
So the next question is for David Weiner, and it's Jeffrey Joel. Thanks, Jeffrey. It is very likely that the Thing wants to take over the world, but if that is not the case, what else might it want?
I think it's actually very clear when you watch the film that it wants to get away and it wants to disappear because it's causing too much trouble. It doesn't want to conquer the station. That's the way it exists. And it's going to take everyone else over because that's what its nature is. It's like the classic story of, the leopard, the scorpion on the frog, the leopard and its spots. At the end of the day, the Thing is the Thing, and the Thing is going to do what the Thing does. But I will note that it is making a spaceship, a miniature version of the spaceship. And so I don't think it has designs on taking over the world. I think it wants to get the heck out of Dodge and leave Earth and go back to whence it came. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay, so the next question is from Jamie Hooper, and this one's for you, Ian.
Yeah.
This is a good question. What are the team most looking forward to bringing to the fans with this documentary? With so much already known about this peerless film after 40 years, will it be a challenge to unearth anything left that could still be something deliberately unknown?
Yeah, I mean, if I've learned something from Aliens Expanded, it's that the information, the stories, the stuff you may or may not know is half the battle. The other half is about the passion and the personality of the people you interview and the fans behind it. And you're trying to kind of like bring the two things together and sort of mold them together. So for me, what I really hope we find new stories. I really hope we have great revelations and crazy theories, including David's recent one he's just given, which I've completely blown my mind. I really hope we can have so much of that. And there will be grand revelations, all of that, of course. But it's not working unless you come away from the documentary understanding something about why we love it so much and why we are talking about it and why it's endured. There's a personality that the film should have. And it was true of Aliens Expanded. I think it's going to be doubly true of The Thing Expanded. It's about the people, and it's about meeting those people and sharing the adventure with those people. Many of them will be the filmmakers and the cast. Other people will be experts. And their love of the film is as important as their knowledge of the film. And if that is evoked in the finished documentary, then I will have done my job.
I'd like to offer something up, and Josh and Ian can definitely vouch for this and take my question or take my comment and run with it. But the enthusiasm by the cast and the crew about this particular documentary is unheard of in all the documentaries that I've worked on, in terms of the excitement to be a part of it and to make it right and make it theirs. Normally you reach out and they say, sure, I'm available, or sure, I'm interested, or yeah, I've talked too much about it. This is something where once we announced this project, they were already like, oh, we haven't been contacted. Did we miss it? They thought they missed the window. And I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to have started with Carpenter. The ultimate person to get is the first one we get.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary way to start. Yeah.
I should, when I was working on the expanded format, this is before Aliens Expanded was a thing. What I was looking to do was create a kind of format where I could really nerd out on a film that I really loved and understand it better. Because I think with really classic movies that we grew up on, they change with us. We look back at them in various parts of our lives. They grow with us. We see them in new ways. We collect the merchandise. We kind of read all the backstories. We want to consume as much as we can, and I think that's why Creative VC exists, actually, because there is a need to do that. But there's certain films that really lend themselves to this expanded format, and I really do think The Thing is like the top of that list. And what was really interesting is when I was first working on Aliens Expanded, and this is even before Ian joined, I kind of wanted it to work where I could just the experience would be like you can get all your film friends together and you can all nerd out on this film together and like go really granular, scene by scene, deconstructing it, but in a really entertaining way. But what happened was we got lots of cast interested early on, and by the end, like right at the end of the whole process, we finally got Sigourney, and it was like, wow, so that's how this happens, and this is what the people want. So when we started working on The Thing, we were like, we've got to start with John Carpenter, and that really was a very different dynamic. So David and I were in LA and did the interview with John Carpenter. We were there for 3 hours. It was phenomenal. And I want to tell you that, Ian and I were with James Cameron, and that was a major, honestly, a major moment in my career, in my life, because I really admire what he's accomplished. But the experience with John Carpenter was very different. John was just so cool, like completely, even though he's 76, he had this kind of glisten in his eye. He's got this kind of punk attitude, and it's genuine. It's just cool. And it was just such an amazing experience. And I wanted to share that with you because I think that starting with the source, I suppose, was the best way to do it. So I just wanted to share that. I'm going to go back to questions now, and feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. So,
and didn't John love the poster design too? Also,
I've actually got pictures. I'm going to release them on social media, and in fact, they're in a tube down there. Like I've got him to sign a few. But when I showed him, I've actually got a funny story about this, right? So, because Ian took the piss out of me, right? So the one thing I get to do on these projects is choose the artist and kind of nerd out on the artwork, right? And so, like in this job, like trying to create a movie, like a documentary poster about a documentary about a movie, is actually really challenging because you don't want it to look like an alternative movie poster. It needs to be clear that this is for a documentary that's exploring the movie. So that when I started it, I didn't think it would be as difficult as it is. So I worked with a long-standing collaborator of ours, a guy called Dave Morrell, phenomenal artist on the Aliens Expanded one. So we finally get to Cameron. Me and Ian fly off to LA, rock up to meet James Cameron, and he does this amazing 90-minute interview. It's like the best interview I've ever sat in on in my life. And at the end, we're chatting. I'm like, James, thousands of Aliens fans from around the world have come together to make this film. This is the art. And he just looked at it. He went, that's interesting. And Ian went to me afterwards. He didn't like the poster. I was a bit crushed, right? So when we started working on the Thing expanded poster, which again was really hard, like we want to evoke the feeling of the film, but we're not making the film. We're making a documentary about the film. So we wanted to sort of come up with a concept where you were kind of exploring the movie with the whole microscope and blood petri dish and all of that kind of thing. And I was really happy with it. When I showed it to John, he just lit up. He was like, "This is amazing. This is so neat. Like, I really like it." So I took some pictures of him signing it. I'll probably put those out on social media. I'm going to go back into questions though. So it's Josh next. So Josh, I've got a question from Oliver Humble Larkin. Great question. Will you be looking at both the original Thing video game from 2002 as well as the newly announced remaster?
Yes, I would say we're looking at not only the original film, but everything that has come since, everything that has been inspired by it. So, of course, the video game, of course, the prequel, even the unmade follow-up projects that we never got, like the sci-fi miniseries. And yeah, I think especially now with the video game getting a remaster, I mean, this is like the perfect time. We're striking while the iron is hot. And we're very excited to dive into all the expanded universe side of the thing because, and I've said this many times before, there are so many kind of, it's almost like a choose your own adventure with the Thing. Like it doesn't have like this kind of hard canon like you do with the Aliens universe. It's more free flowing, like the Alien itself. You can kind of pick and choose. Oh, I like this sequel. I like the prequel. I like the video game more. So it's really fun to see what's out there, both what we did get in terms of the video games and the comics and the prequel, but also seeing what we didn't get in terms of the Ronald D. Moore prequel that didn't get made, or the sci-fi miniseries, which I am a huge fan of. The script is phenomenal. So we're really looking to broaden the horizon of what the 1982 film inspired. Everything that was made and everything that wasn't made. And yes, the video game definitely fits into there.
I would add also, I'm sure all of you know this, but that John Carpenter is a huge video game enthusiast. And so, of course, he's aware of and part of, I will not say anything more, but he definitely shares his opinion about this stuff.
Yeah, and I want to dispel the myth that the character of Dr. Faraday in the game, it was John's likeness. It's not his voice. Just John confirmed that to me.
Actually, I just had, I don't know, Andrew, if you want to put this up on screen. I've had a question in the live chat from Brinsley. So I don't know if you can do your magic, Andrew, there. But when did everyone see the Thing for the first time? I'm going to go first. So I was about 5 years old. I was in Dubai, right? And my mum really loved horror movies. And I remember I have this visceral memory of watching the chest bursting scene. And then it was one of those kind of, burnt in memories. That and Rambo really stay with me. And I'm sure she didn't show it to me. I'm sure I just walked in the wrong part. But I remember watching it when I was a teenager and just it gripping me. And it's funny because at the beginning of this year, I took Ian in London to the British Film Institute, and they had a screening of the Thing. It was packed on a Saturday night, and there were people in the cinema that had never seen the Thing before. And they were, and the movie still has this amazing power. People were shrieking all the right. We were sitting there in the middle. We had really good seats. We were like, "Oh wow, this still really works." Ian, what about you? When did you first see it?
Yeah, I have a very particular day. I think I'm probably about 15 or 16, and we had a school sports day in the UK. So running races, horrible things, long distance running. So basically, I bunked off. I played hooky with some mates, and we drove to one of their dad's houses. And he had this miraculous thing called a VHS player. We'd heard of these things, but we'd never seen one. And he had two tapes. He had Alien, the original Alien, and he had The Thing. And rather than do Sports Day, we watched those two films. And of course, were just blown away. I mean, I can actually honestly say that day changed my life. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, and we managed to get back before the end of sports day, so we were never, caught out. So it was doubly good. There was no recompense. But even though Alien kind of had a very powerful effect, the Thing was the one we just kept talking about. It was the one we kept going over it. Oh my God, that sequence. Oh my God, that. I don't think we had seen gore to that level or that intensity. It's not just the kind of splatter of it. It's the kind of intensity that comes with it. And that's what we kept talking about. I mean, it was an afternoon of gore, one chest burster to the next, but absolutely seminal for me. And I didn't have to do sports day.
David.
I saw the Thing opening weekend in the theater. I saw a Saturday afternoon matinee. I was 13 years old, and now the more I think about it, I'm like, they let me in. I don't remember any problem whatsoever getting into a rated R film when I was 13. I just walked in, sat down, and I was enthralled, challenged, and blown away throughout that entire screening. And everyone else in the theater felt the same way. I could tell. Now, here's the thing about the Thing. At that time, I was 13, so I didn't care about what the reviews were. I didn't care about anything like that. I didn't care about the box office. Also, it was a time when it wasn't splashed on every headline or on television how much a film did, whether it was a success or a bomb. No one talked about that. That was really not part of the lexicon as a fan. You just went and you enjoyed it or you didn't like it. You recommended it or you saw it again. So it took years for me to clue in that this was a failure, and then Carpenter was all bitter about it, and that people didn't like it in terms of the critics. I was like, whatever, they're completely wrong. This was an incredible experience, and I've stood my ground, and everyone has caught up. I know you guys all loved it, but the rest of the world has finally caught up to the Thing, which is very nice.
And I'm gonna go to Josh, and then I want to ask this question from Gregory in the chat. Josh, what about you?
I'll be quick. I was born a little over a decade after the Thing opened in theaters, so I heard about all the horror classics through my father, who just his mere descriptions of something like the chestburster scene was enough to make me nauseous as a kid. And then I came across the Thing at a bookstore in one of those 100 movies you have to see before you die books. And he described the premise of the Thing, and it was enough to make me terrified of my family, wondering if they were imposters. So that was enough to scar me. And then I think in college, I finally worked up the courage to start watching some clips. I think I started with the defibrillator scene, and that also made me nauseous. And from there, I finally watched the full thing, and here I am, and became my favorite movie of all time. It's a masterpiece.
So the question from Gregory is, was the Thing the pilot of the ship, or did it take over? That's actually a great question.
My take on this is that the Thing, as far as I can tell, is never seen. It's a microbe. It's something you see, or you see manifestations of the Thing. There is no Thing to be seen. It's one of the ironies of the film. Is actually the one character you never see is the Thing. You only see what its kind of representations. Therefore, the pilot has to be just one of those representations. I always take that flying saucer to be something that's been hijacked, and the creature in the ice is some poor, pilot, or it's some Thing version of the pilot that's kind of died, in the process. But I don't think you ever see the Thing. I think it's a microbe. It's a virus.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was picked up on a scientific expedition by the real pilots of that ship, and it broke free and took over. And I think the pilots, I think in the prequel, an earlier version of the prequel, it was confirmed that it was that, and I think the original pilots crashed it to stop it from spreading. It's my personal theory.
I would think it's either very simple or it's very complicated. But when you look at it, it's not like Body Snatchers. There's no husk of a human to dispose of. So it really does sort of go from person to person and evolve and change as it sees fit. But because people can act completely human and you don't know, and that's where the wonderful paranoia begins, whether you're a dog or a human or who knows what, a raccoon. But I think that makes it that much more challenging, and that's what's so great about it is we're still talking about it to this day.
And
There's been
something that,
oh,
sorry, just real quick, something that Ian brought up during his Reddit AMA a few weeks ago was the question of, has this happened on other planets before? Are there other MacReady-esque aliens out there that have dealt with this creature? Is this just a cyclical thing that's been going on throughout the galaxy? I think that was a really interesting question.
Because surely everything we see in terms of, we're going to run with this now, Robin. You've just launched.
I'm going to actually impose the rules, right? So because I want to get through as
You're
many
right.
questions as I can, but go for it. You figure.
I would say everything we see in terms of the special effects is this kind of chart of the voyage the creature has made. The thing has journeyed through the universe and has picked up the DNA of countless life forms. And that's its extraordinary power, is that what we're getting is this kind of vision of what's out there. It's this kind of mind-blowing sort of sense of anything can exist. And that's what's fascinating. So the thing is kind of like a template, or it's a sponge for all the other life forms of the galaxy.
There was a question in the chat from Nick Nichols. I don't know, Andrew, if you want to put that up, but I'm just answering it very quickly. Nick has asked, will we be able to add fan clips? Will that be added to the credits? Now, for those of you that don't know or haven't seen In Search of Darkness 3 or Aliens Expanded, what we've started doing with our projects is towards the end of post-production, when we know when it's coming out and everything else, we go out to all of our backers and we say, hey, if you want to make a video telling us why you support this project, why you love this movie, why it's so special to you, do send it to us and we'll use the best ones in the credits. Now, what happens is, just a caveat, that we will be doing that again. In fact, that's a feature of our projects. We'll be doing that all the time. We love it. But inevitably, because we receive hundreds of videos, we cannot use them all. So if you do contribute to making a video, which we really want you to, we can't guarantee it will be in the credits. However, we try and use as many as possible on social media. So if there are any of you who are following our Aliens Expanded social media feeds, if you go to @Aliens Expanded, that's the social media tag for Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, you'll see right today or yesterday we've posted up another video of one of our backers saying why they love aliens. And so we're going to try and use as much material from that as we can. And I really love how that works. I think that one of the reasons we've done that is to create this sense of intimacy, because we can't make these projects without the support of super fans like you. And so we want to make you feel as interconnected to this project as possible. That's why we're doing these 20 hours of live events. We really want to hear from you. We're going to share updates with you. We're going to we really want you to feel like you're part of this journey with us. So that's been a real hit. And the other thing that people seem to really love is the certificate. There was a certificate of contribution, and it's like it's got gold leaf around the border. It's really nice. What I'm hearing from our backers is they love that. They're getting that framed, and it's just another connection. I think ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with these projects is not only just make a great documentary, but I think we really want to create something which acts as a kind of manifestation, a connection between you and something you really enjoy. That's kind of forever that you can hold. So I've gone off on a tangent now.
I'd love to jump in and actually ask Ian Nathan a question. I see in the conversation people are talking about the TV edit of The Thing and how it's a little different. For those who aren't aware, there are differences, and you guys are sort of listing them. But one I think is really interesting is they kind of shoehorned in, almost again with the Blade Runner, this sort of unnecessary narrative to explain who the characters are. And it's actually, because we know that it didn't end up in the theatrical cut, it's really wonderful how awful it is. It's very very clunky. Are we going to be talking about that, do you think?
I think we will. You have to talk about the evolution of the film itself and the journey the film went on, and Carpenter's own struggles, and Stuart Cohen's as well. He was the producer and he had the project before Carpenter. And he has his own story. And it's very telling that even after the film didn't do so well, but it's obviously since become a cult classic, there was this terrible attempt to rectify things by the studio on television by explaining where all these guys came from, and you just like, you don't get it. The idea is everybody's anonymous. You don't know, and the point is you don't have to know them, and you shouldn't know them because you're trying to guess who's the thing. Totally destroys the whole point of Carpenter's characterizations or lack of characterizations in the film and what the actors did with those roles. But you have to talk about that. You have to talk, I think, perhaps differently to Aliens, there's a very significant strand about the relationship between Carpenter and the production and the studio. There's a much harder journey the thing went on in relation to Universal than ultimately Aliens went on with Fox. Fox are very happy with the film Cameron delivered them, whereas I don't think Universal quite got what they had with the thing. And of course, that will expand into a great debate within our film.
I'm going to get back to questions, but Nick Nichols, again, has asked a rather good question, right? And so I'm going to just, I don't know if Andrew, you can pick that one up, which is Carpenter has stated, this is really Rob Bottin's film. Any chance he'll be participating, right? So I just want to sort of make a comment about this, right? So we are actively reaching out to everybody who you would expect, and maybe some people you wouldn't expect to be relevant to this film. We can never guarantee we get everybody. All we can guarantee is that we will do our absolute best. I can tell you with Aliens Expanded, we just tried every idea in the book to get, and it just, to be honest, it was just a home run. It came through. I think Sigourney came in like 4 or 5 days before the end of our final campaign. Like, talk about cutting it to the wire. But Rob Bottin is someone that we absolutely, we're not just going to go, oh, can you be in the documentary? We really are going to make a massive play for him because we recognize how beloved he is. We also recognize, and this is important when you're talking about with Rob Bottin, he has made a choice to be private, and you have to respect that. However, I think given the context and focus of what we're trying to accomplish with this project and the admiration, we want to give him his flowers now, and I think it's with that. And so that would be a major coup for us. Absolutely. Everyone else who you're thinking, is that person going to be in? We're in the process of trying to make that magic happen. Our track record is pretty good. And we'll let you know when things are in the can. So what we won't do is we won't say to you, "Oh, we've got an interview booked with so and so." We'll only confirm cast members when we've actually filmed those interviews. In
production, you cannot count your chickens until they're hatched, and we've had many experiences across our various productions where someone has said yes, and even showed up at their establishment, and then it didn't happen because they couldn't do it. So until it's in the can, we can't really announce anything. I just want to say that Rob Bottin's manager also managed J.D. Salinger, so we have our work out for them.
Yeah, how do we know Nick Nichols isn't Rob on this
Exactly.
Thingcast right now?
That's a good question.
Could just be a pseudonym.
By the way, that was a joke.
Okay, so I'm actually going to go to a question.
Okay.
So now I think this is for David. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and keep the answers shorter for everybody because I want to get through as many of the questions as possible, right? And we've got about half an hour left. So David, this is from Simon. Hi,
Simon says,
right? Simon says, will the 2011 remake, which I like, right? I do like it, remake be a part of the Thing Expanded, or is this just pure Carpenter 82 thing? You may slightly hint from my question what my preference would be. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, like we're doing the video game, the 2011 version of the Thing is a prequel and is part of the storyline, at least cinematically, whether you agree that it is or not. Fans love to argue canon. But at the end of the day, it's a movie that connects literally down to the moment from the end of that film to the beginning of 1982, The Thing. And for that, it is valuable because I think there's a lot of stuff that's really well done. I actually really enjoyed that film. I am with everyone, in fact, in terms of the CG versus the practical effects. It just is a mess. That being said, I still think it's a pretty compelling film and has many, many virtues. And I would love to see Ian tackle it as much as he'd like to.
Yeah, I just to add that. Yeah, we will go into it. What the expanded format gives you is this idea of sidebars and tangents, that you can have a central narrative, which will be the 1982 film, which will be John Carpenter's masterpiece. But we can spiral off and discuss the video games. We can discuss the prequel. We can do all of that. It's expanded. You've got to do the full universe.
So, Ian, I've got a question for you now.
Okay.
This is from Julie Emery. Thanks, Julie. What themes are you hoping to cover within the documentary?
Obviously, that's quite a big question. You obviously, there are kind of levels in which these films work, and the top level is you're asking the question of why has the thing endured. So, what is it about it we return to? What is its secret magic? Then, on another level, you look at it from the point of view of how is this a story about John Carpenter and who he is as a filmmaker and where he came from and all his influences, which obviously draws you back to Howard Hawks and the original. Howard Hawks is his favorite filmmaker. Then you talk about the cast and what they bring to it. But all the while, you want to get into the bigger picture. You want to kind of loosen up and at the edges. You want to talk about Rob Bottin. You want to talk about practical effects. You want to talk about the universe of the film. You want to talk about the idea that the thing has endured is this extraordinary metaphor for things. It's about paranoia. I always read it as a 70s film. I know it's 1982. But it's much more about the 1970s than all the films around it. That sense of not trusting anyone, it relates, goes back to Watergate and the whole 70s scene. I think it's a film about infection and disease. AIDS is obviously came shortly afterward. All that kind of element. So there's so many themes you can get into, and I hope there are themes that I don't know yet. That when we get talking to people, they will bring them up, and you'll go, "Oh, that's a great tangent. I hadn't thought of that. We're going to go down that road." But all the while, the one abiding question you have to keep to is the primary one. It's like, why do we love this film? How do all these ingredients result in our love? And that's the kind of primary theme. But I want it to be, like the creature itself, taking on many, many forms.
So my next question is from Simon Harding. It's to Josh. And this is a fantastic question. Will you look into the scene? I've never thought about this before. This is brilliant. Will you look into the scene with MacReady and the blow-up doll?
That's personal.
Yeah. Well, I guess you'll just have to wait and see. But I would love to. There's production stills out there that still exist. I'm not sure. Do you guys know? I can't recall. Is there footage that still exists of him with the blow-up doll?
I've only seen pictures. Well, I've got Stuart Cohen.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that idea is I always take that as an in-joke because it's about a fake human. It's this kind of fake doll. It's a joke about there being no women in the film, obviously, as well.
Right.
But it's also about the idea of replicating something in a fake form. So it's kind of a clever in-joke. So it's not just a gag about a blow-up doll. It's
right. And I believe it's played for, at least in the script, it's a jump scare at one point when they go to his shack and it kind of pops out and scares the audience. But yeah, I'd love to. I hope that Ian finds room for it because, who doesn't love, Airplane and The Thing, two great blow-up doll movies.
Otto is The Thing.
Yeah. My next question now is a great question. It's from Ivan. I was going to give you the Google Sheet row number, which you don't need to know. From Ivan Sanchez. This is to David. What's your favorite part of making a documentary like this? And don't just say working with me because I hear it. It's
Okay, well, it's working with Ian and Josh then. Okay, but other than that, well, I joke because I'm joking, but it's true. I'll start there actually, and I'll keep this a short answer. But you have to like the people you work with, and you have to value the people you work with, and you have to have tremendous confidence in the people you work with. And when you don't have that, so much more falls on your own shoulders. And so we already put Ian's feet to the fire with Aliens Expanded, and he came out with flying colors. And so I kind of feel like I have to work. I want to work, but I have to work less on this film. Ian knows what he's doing. He's got his marching orders. He can kind of go in his corner. I'm here and available to help as I can. But I can't wait to see what Ian's going to do. But I think the most important, the coolest part for me is the wins when you reach out to talent that you hope for and want, and they say yes when, and then they're there and they do it. And it's such an amazing win, because as a fan, we know that we want to see these people talking about the project and talking about new things that we've never heard before. Sitting across from John Carpenter, and he says, "Oh, I never knew this," or "That's a great question," or "Did you know that?" unprompted, is just gold nuggets through and through. And that's my favorite part.
Okay.
Can I add something to this? Maybe a more precise answer. Yeah, of course, all those things David said are true, but I think there's this extraordinary thing that happens when you get to the edit and you start putting all these different voices together, and something new emerges, a different film perhaps than the one you thought you were going to make, but something really exciting. You know the interviews you've done, but when you start cutting them up and putting them together, a story emerges and a film emerges, and it's like a whole lot of information suddenly comes into focus. And for me on Aliens, that was absolutely the most inspiring moment. I knew there was something there, but when I started to see it come together on the screen, and you start to put these little nuggets that David was saying, put them together, it's just thrilling. You see something, a new life form appear in front of you, this film, and then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good. And you go on that journey.
Well, I've got a question for you, Ian, which is from Jeff Hoffman. Thanks, Jeff. This is a great question. What did you wish you did for Aliens Expanded, but didn't, and now you can with the Thing Expanded?
One of the hardest things, I'll be honest with this, one of the hardest things with Aliens Expanded in terms of the storytelling was changing subject. It was because there was so much we wanted to cover, and we had this structure where you followed the film, section by section, and you go into, as Robin said before, you go into it and you move around within it, and it's an exploration of the film. We're going to do that with the Thing. And what was hard was that people don't necessarily go, and now let's talk about this. And they don't do it for you. And we don't have a voiceover. So what you have to do is you have to do it with images, or you have to do it with music or pauses, or you just have to trust the viewer. Now, what I would like to do a bit more with the Thing, Robin may even, might shoot me down at this point in time. I'm in a production meeting in front of your eyes. I want a few more signposts to be able to put in, maybe graphically, things that will enable me to go from A to D and back to A and not confuse the viewer. A few more tools in the toolbox.
I'm very open to that.
That's good. That's good. I mean, just interstitial things, just things that mark a change in subject for the viewer to understand.
I've got now another. So who is it? Josh next. So I'm going to go to 16D. Let's have a look at this. This is from Nathan Cabrera. And great question, Josh. What is the aspect of the film production of the Thing that and I think he means what single aspect of the film production of the Thing do you enjoy most? The editing, the lighting, the cinematography? If you have to pinpoint one element from it, what would it be?
I mean, personally, for me, I would have to go with the creature effects by Rob Bottin. I've said this before again, but this is sort of a monster movie lover's dream. You don't just get one monster; you get a whole buffet of creatures. You get crustacean crawling heads. You get tentacles wrapping around dogs. You get chests opening up with like shark-like teeth inside. It's just like. It's an imagination running wild is what it is. And I think that's what really speaks to me personally. I mean, obviously the cinematography, John's direction, the acting, the cat, like it's just everything works together in harmony. But I think the thing that ties it together are those effects. The fact that this creature can be anything and the fact that it is anything and everything. What about you guys?
I think, just to add to that, I fully agree. There's this great quote from Stephen King about what you try and attain in the genre. The ultimate goal is terror. And terror, he says, is the knock at the door. He says, when you open the door, it's horror, because whatever's behind the door is never as good as your imagination. But I think Rob Bottin and John Carpenter came close as it's possible to get to terror, because they get beyond my imagination. They're one or two steps ahead of my mind going. So it is literally, I think, beyond imagination. It's kind of a cliche, I know, but I think the way they work and how they came up with these effects are more than anything I could ever come up with in my darkest recesses.
Right.
So
I think this is the greatest expression of Lovecraft that isn't expressly based on anything by Lovecraft. This is the kind of quintessential distillation of what Lovecraftian horror is all about.
And Carpenter loves Lovecraft through and through. I think the design between Giger's xenomorph, Alien wasn't a xenomorph until later, but the xenomorph and the Thing, I think is kind of a quantum leap in terms of our a chess move ahead of our imaginations of what could be behind that door when it's finally revealed. And I think that's why these movies are so beloved to this day, is because they blew our minds beyond what the expectations could be. I want to add real quick, I know we want to get to another question, but some of the questions are about music. And I think I'll volunteer that music is one of my favorite elements of the Thing. And Ennio Morricone, there's a whole story with Carpenter and Ennio, and we could touch on that or not. But that soundtrack, if it had a descriptive word, it would be dread to me. And that movie is the movie it is to me, so much so because I walked out of that movie not in a good mood, but I still loved it. And I felt incredible dread walking out of that. And it's singularly because of that music still running through my head.
We've got less than 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try and rattle through as many of these as possible. Ian Mitchell actually has the double. Ian Mitchell's in the chat. Hi, Ian. You've got a double whammy question, right? So your question's coming up, but you've actually asked a question, or you've pointed out something in the chat. I don't know if Andrew, you're going to find that. It says, Aliens Expanded has the kind of electric filing cabinet as a visual structure. And actually, it's not a filing cabinet. That's like that's the chronology of the film. So it's the scenes. If you took the film and just went like that, we go through the scenes chronologically. But he does say something here, which is, would Macready's cassettes work as a kind of, if you were as a kind of interstitial? I actually think that's quite a neat idea. Personally.
I feel like I pitched that, didn't I, early on?
I think we have.
I don't want to take credit for Mr. Mitchell's excellent suggestion, though. But yeah, I think that retro. Sorry, Ian, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What you're saying, I think we have talked a lot about how we're going to replicate that electric filing cabinet system that we had in Aliens in the aesthetic of the Thing. Yet it still has to do the same job because you're still working your way through the film chronologically. But you want to have a kind of retro 70s, cassette tape vibe to it. Yeah. We've not fully answered that question yet, but I like the idea of tapes.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. In Ian's other question, which you guys can answer, characters or story, what matters most?
Characters are story. The story is character.
Well, that
I rest my case.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get through this. Ian, you're next on this. So I've got, let's have a look. Who has asked this one? This is Gary. And this is, will the documentary cover film and TV shows influenced by the Thing?
Yes. I mean, the degree to which we kind of take tangents from the central film has yet to be decided. That comes with the telling of the story. But certainly if you use Aliens Expanded as a guide, we did a whole kind of montage of all the films that were touched upon. I think I'd like to lean into it a bit more with the Thing and debate it a bit more, because I think it can be in a more subtle way than perhaps just direct quotes from the film, people sort of directly riffing on it. I think there are much more subtle, right the way through to the Jodie Foster series this year, which really touched on it. And really, we played tribute to it. I've just recently seen, I'm going to date this video, but I've recently seen The Substance. And that film really calls on the Thing.
Is it good?
Oh, it's terrific. It's really fun. Really outrageous. But she's clearly paying homage to John Carpenter. And that's just great. And so I would love to kind of get into the idea of proper influence, serious artistic influence that the film's had.
It's not an influence on the film. I do not believe it's an influence at all. But I think anyone who's a fan here who doesn't already know, there's 1972's Horror Express with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing is loosely based on Campbell's Who Goes There. And if you watch it, obviously it's on a train and you got Telly Savalas stealing the show, but it really there's hallmarks of that storyline in a different setting and a different context, and it's really pretty cool. And so I think that's something that we could at least touch on, and people should seek out for spooky season.
The next question is from Donovan Demon Carr, and this is for you, Josh, I think. What's the process you undertake to contact a contributor, for example, John Carpenter?
Right. It's funny because when Robin first brought me on as a producer, he said he brought me on as he mentioned earlier on the merit of my oral history that I put together for the 40th anniversary, which I think is one of the most extensive articles you'll find on the thing. Not to toot my own horn, but he basically said to me, "You've done this in print, or you've done this, with words. Now you're going to do it. You're going to help us do it in documentary form." So I kind of have like the blueprint in place. I had the contacts of cast and crew who I had spoken with, who were kind enough to give me their direct emails and stuff. So it's really just a matter of reaching back out, be like, "Hey, we had this great chat for this piece I did. Do you want to do it? Do you want to sit in front of a camera now and kind of do the same thing?" And so far, the response has been, like David has said, people are just, coming out of the woodwork, wanting to be a part of this. So thankfully, we had a strong foundation. I kind of had that proverbial Rolodex, if we're going, retro terms. So yeah, it was just we've been really lucky, and I can't thank this team enough for bringing me on, because I've just been having the time of my life.
It's I'll tell you what, right? When you work with a small team, and it's an incredibly small team at Creative EC, what I've learned is a small team that's really focused can really accomplish some awesome things. And I think that, my highest sort of wish isn't making a great documentary, because, we have I love the work that we do. I genuinely love the work that we do. But my highest wish for this project is that all of you that have, helped fund this project, that you feel like you've been on a journey with us. That's something that I want to improve on with each project. I think we did pretty well with Aliens Expanded. I want to do better with The Thing Expanded. But I do have a question for Peter Coogan, saying, "Bring on Phil Hoare." Phil's my man. Phil's part of our advisory circle, Peter. I don't know if Andrew, you want to put Peter's comment up on the screen. So for you Thing fans out there, Phil wrote the kind of definitive history on the franchise. So he's covered everything to do with The Thing. Lovely guy, an Antipodean legend. And I think he's also like a paleontologist expert, like a really genuinely fascinating guy. So yeah, so he's part of the project, actually. But this next question is from Rob Daniels, and it's for David. Did you find that John Carpenter always just wanted Ennio Morricone to do the music, or were there other composers other than John himself that were in the running?
I will just tease that John had some interesting things to say and wonderful things to say about the soundtrack. But some of the choices that we ultimately got, had to do with the fact that we were working with a studio. Prior to that, it was about budget. This time it was about what the studio wanted.
I've kind of run out of questions now, which is really good. So kind of mission accomplished, right? So what I'm going to try and do and see if this works, right? And I'm just riffing with it, is you guys in the chat, like the next decent question that comes up that we haven't already answered, we'll ask live. So if you have a burning question that we can answer, if you write it in the chat now, we've got sort of 5 minutes.
There's one. What's everyone's take on whether the movie should be based as a sci-fi or horror movie?
Both. I say both.
I think it's horror.
People like to tick boxes for genre because it's convenient. But the best movies I find are the ones that straddle multiple genres and take the best of each. And so I will not commit.
Yeah,
Mike,
I'll answer that. It's neither. It's a Western.
okay, well, okay. Typically in. Mike Maluski, hope I got your name right there. From 0% to maybe, what are the chances for Criterion or Arrow release? And I think Mike asked this question earlier. Wouldn't it be cool if the Thing Expanded ended up on an Arrow release? I can confidently say there is a 0 chance of that happening. So there we go.
I do want to see Ian in the Criterion closet one day.
Yeah,
favorites. That would be great.
Scottish Geek Guy. Right, Scottish Geek Guy. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I was late to my meeting, pre-meeting, because I was watching your Aliens Expanded review. So if that's correct, that's amazing. But he's got a question here. What is the biggest challenge when making the Thing Expanded so far? The biggest challenge. I can tell you what I think the biggest challenge is, right? Is that we now have a precedent in Aliens Expanded, which is, I'm really delighted with how that came. I love it. It's funny, like anything that's really good, I need to watch it a few times to really appreciate it. And I've been watching recently again. My wife's been watching it for the first time. And I was listening to her watch it, and I wasn't even looking at what was on the screen. I was hearing the commentary, and I thought, God, this is so well written, this documentary. And it's the same with In Search of Darkness actually as well. Whenever I go back and rewatch it, I go, wow, this is kind of more than the sum of its parts. So for me, my biggest challenge with this project is we kind of got a home run with Aliens Expanded. And I don't want to, I want to improve on what we did there, but there are always challenges that we can't foresee. There's always problems we can't solve, but this team is the team that can, and if it can happen, it will happen.
I would like to volunteer, speak for Ian Nathan on his behalf, which I'm sure he would rather I didn't. We have an opportunity because the bar was set so high with Aliens Expanded. There's always the temptation to kind of do the same or do something very different, but straddling both, I think, is the right way to go about it. But fundamentally, Ian is a writer, and Ian is an organized thinker, whether or not he agrees with that. And ultimately, that's the best way to tackle something like this, because there are so many disparate theories and concepts and discussions and rabbit holes to go down. And I think this is a wonderful chance for Ian to sort of refigure, yet use his organizational brain to structure this in a way that's compelling. And I think that's the biggest challenge that I think I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes about it.
Yeah, I'll say one thing very quickly. The biggest terror with Aliens Expanded was living up to the viewer, living up to the backer. That was the kind of thing I carried with me the whole way through it. It wasn't Cameron, Sigourney Weaver, or any of that. I mean, as hard as those things were, as brilliant as they were in the end, it was thinking, is this good enough? And that begins again with the Thing. I go back to 0. I go back to, is this good enough? Every step, and it's, I've got David and I've got Josh and I've got Robin, and they help me. But in the end, it's still a terror, and we will all carry that until there's a finished film.
Don't forget that. Just real quick, just don't forget that Ian not only managed Empire Magazine, one of the greatest film publications on the planet. He's written books on directors. He's a journalist. He's an author. He's a Renaissance man. If there's someone to put your trust in, it's Ian. So my hat's off to him.
I'm going to run through some of these questions in the live chat because I want to. I don't mind running over a little bit, so I'll run over a little bit. So Ken is asking, will the doc touch on a novelization? I think it will do. Wait and see. I'd like that to happen. It's who's the guy that wrote the novelization? It's the same
Alan Dean Foster, who we got Aliens. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, brilliantly. Great. Will there be any more Thingcast streams? Yes, there will. There's going to be 20 hours of Thingcast streams. Not just us, by the way. This is like a special one.
That's chatting.
This is like, hello, this is like our introduction to you. No, we want to get the cast and crew. We want to get some of the world's greatest experts on the Thing. And we're going to have, Ian, Ian and Josh have put together an amazing menu of things that we want to do with these kind of live get-togethers. So do you just want to touch on that, guys, and tell the people what they've got for?
Josh, you far away.
Oh, I was gonna defer to you, but yeah, we are looking to in the expanded tradition. We are looking to kind of take a macro view of things. I kind of pitched a few things that were a little more specific, and then Ian kind of very smartly kind of pulled back and said, let's take a more broad view of certain topics about the film. So, talking about not just looking at the, let's say the effects of the film, but the, practical effects in horror in the 80s as a whole. What was that like, and how that impacted the industry. Ian, you want to go from there?
I think what I love about the way Robin has set up this idea of a journey is that you want to bring the backer along, and obviously it's physically impossible to bring you all into a shoot, get you into the room. It'd just be too crowded and a little bit noisy, so we can't do that. But what we want is this dialogue constantly, and this idea of it's not just about the destination; it's about the journey. And I think these vidcasts are a great way of doing it. And I don't want to. What I think is important with them is not to do the documentary in some kind of primitive form before you've done the documentary. You want it to run on a parallel track, and just take the chance to have really good nerd outs on subjects that relate to the thing. Bring in those experts, bring in the cast members. It's worked really well with Aliens, but we want to really double down on it for the thing. So genre, era, right to, celebrity guests.
There's a couple of questions I want to get to very quickly. So Scott Barber has said, asked many times in the chat, I'm sorry, the way we've got this worked is that we've only got about 6 questions on screen, so stuff kind of goes fast. Will you address John Campbell, H.P. Lovecraft, and any other very old predecessors?
Josh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said before, I see this as a Lovecraftian film. I mean, it is very At the Mountains of Madness, even though it's not based on that. And I think it's inescapable to you can't talk about The Thing without talking about Lovecraft. Obviously, you can't talk about The Thing without talking about John W. Campbell Jr., who wrote Who Goes There. We have to touch
His
on
grandson, by the way, is part of our advisory circle.
Yes.
I've got another question, actually. Ken Glover, and then I'm going to get to Sharon's one. Ken Glover said, I'm curious, what was the spark or catalyst that made you all think The Thing has to be the next doc subject? It was actually my decision, and it's based on the fact that I love The Thing, and Aliens Expanded was going really well, but our audience, because of the In Search of Darkness franchise, really skews horror. I wanted to pick a horror movie that the horror fans really love, that we could give the expanded treatment to, and there is no other horror movie that more aligns with the expanded treatment than The Thing, and here we are. So it was very much based on the skew of interest of our total audience, and so that was the reason. Another question that was Kite has asked. We've had a couple of questions about this. Well, actually, I'm getting my questions confused. This question is, could The Thing copy tattoos? That's a great question. But the reason I'm asking it is because someone else said, can we send in pictures of The Thing tattoos? So I have a think about that first one, come up with a great answer, okay? But just about the tattoos, I'm not massive on tattoos. So it's, sometimes when we talk about the fan base, we'll show people doing cosplay and stuff. Tattoos are a bit more personal, and sometimes people tag us on social media, and I'm a bit like, I'm not sure I want to share this or not. So we don't have a policy on it per se.
If you have your own tattoo and you want to show it to us while you talk about why you love The Thing as a potential end credit video, no guarantees, but by all means, show your fan love of The Thing.
Yeah. As long as it's in a decent part of the body.
Yeah. Sharon.
Well, if you subscribe to the 2011 prequel, it can't replicate inorganic material, so probably it can't replicate tattoos. Probably.
Sharon has asked, at what point would you say The Thing expanded would be too long?
28 hours.
No, there's an in-joke about David Weiner that I don't want to make because it's unkind, right?
I would put this back to the audience who's here right now. What do you guys think is too long? Give us the number.
Can I just say I never intended on making 5-hour documentaries until I met David Weiner. Okay, right.
Guilty
So
as charged.
Yeah, so it's actually a battle to get them down to
The material demands it. I will stand on my soapbox and say, so many films, several films before. I won't go down huge rabbit hole. Crystal Lake Memories, is 6 hours long. Never Sleep Again is like 5 hours long. There are 5, 6, 7 hour movies that people love to see again and again, and that gave permission for In Search of Darkness to be so long, and the structure demands it in terms of how much you want to cover and the concepts in between. So we expected Aliens Expanded to be 2.5, 3 hour movie.
3 hours,
and
yeah.
What we got, and I never gave any orders whatsoever for length.
I'll chime in very quickly on this to back up David. In the end, these films are about indulgence because you love these films. So if we delivered an hour and a half, we're not doing our job. We're not. We've got to indulge, and length is part of that indulgence. You don't have to watch it all at once. You can do if you want, but it is a journey. It's an experience. It's got to be in depth, and we're going to go long.
These films do not feel their actual length.
No, that's the whole point. I agree with that. That's my view is as long as it doesn't slow down or get boring at all, you want to have the pace. And I think because one of the benefits of being independent is we're not beholden to any broadcasters' time slots or what Netflix. We can have them as long or short as we need them to be. And I like them to be as short as they can be, but they have to be. It's a great word you use in indulgence. They are. It's almost like a luxury item. And we're so focused on our target audience, which isn't people that just like the thing. This is people that love the thing, that want to kind of indulge and go on a bit of a nerdy journey throughout the whole thing. I've got another question actually from Gary, which is and this is a question really I think I'd like to hear from you as well, Ian. But will the Thing Expanded cover reaction videos from YouTubers?
When you say reaction videos, are we talking about people watching it?
No. Well, I mean,
please define your term.
It's two things. I think reaction videos, specifically with his question.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ian, Andrew, you can find it, but I think he's actually talking about the reaction videos where they do watch the film.
Right.
I wanted to extend it to. There's a plethora of really good YouTubers and film critics that do kind of deep dives themselves on kind of various elements. So I'll make it a double question.
Okay.
No, Brian McCreary's gone, no YouTube reaction video.
Obviously, they're a hot topic.
Yeah.
I think we have to make sure that we are a documentary for you, and you are part of it, and there will be expert fans within it. But I think it's probably a little bit too much to have fan reactions sort of within it, because you're starting to step outside of the kind of the format we're in. We've got John Carpenter talking about this film. It's a gift to all of you. It's not just a gift to one of you. So I'm not. I don't want to say no to anything at this stage because we're just beginning production. But I kind of still want a kind of sense of authenticity and we're. I'm not trying to do YouTube down, but I think we are slightly different from that, and I think we have more ambition than that. And as great as those things are, I think we want to do more.
Yeah, I think backing up what Ian's saying as diplomatically as possible is that there's a difference between YouTube and reaction videos and fan videos and a documentary that's focused with a lot of the people who were from this film and also experts about the film. Not to create a differentiation between YouTube fans who know a hell of a lot more than arguably all of us. But there is sort of a delineation that we want to establish. And, we can't have it all in here. So at a certain point, we have to create something that's different and unique that you really can't get on YouTube.
There's a good question here, and I just want to tack on to the end of the last one as well. So, we kind of want to have, we want to represent the best of fandom in the projects that we do. So we've had, top YouTube creators in some of our previous projects. With Aliens Expanded, we had Derek from Alien Theory, who's a preeminent aliens-focused YouTube channel. He was a fantastic contributor. So I think there's a space for that fan voice that's represented by those people. But it's too much. Pause Time has asked a great question, which is, hey guys, I don't know if you want to get this up, Andrew, but hey guys, sorry to ask again, but what would be the next movie you're looking at expanded? And and that Pause Time has said Predator, Tremors, or any other choices. So I think that we need to get to the end of the thing, and we're considering different ideas. I can tell you what I'd like to happen, right? And so this may or may not happen, right? So there's certain movies that have enough depth and complexity, and they have this kind of aura around them of rabbit holes you can go down. So I think the Terminator 1 and 2 would be a great topic to cover for an expanded. As you've written there, Predator, not Predator just the movie on its own, but the Predator world. And it would have to be in a kind, because the Predator's not on its own. It doesn't have that aura around it in terms of rabbit holes you can go down, but within the franchise it does. And you've mentioned something quite interesting, which is Tremors. So I didn't know this, but Tremors has a massive fan community. They have like a big event every year in America. And I went out to lunch with Gail Ann Hurd's publicist, and we were chewing the fat about ideas, and she was like, you've got to do Tremors. Like Tremors has like a huge fan base, and they have like this yearly event in America. Like a few thousand people come down to, I was like, I didn't even know. So my personal choice for an expanded would actually be Donnie Darko.
All right.
Ian, do you want to speak to any of that at all? Have I answered it?
Well, obviously, My Pretty Woman expanded is, it's gone back to the back burner again. No, I mean, what's really interesting is all those titles make sense, but there is, the bandwidth isn't as wide as you would think, because as Robin was alluding to earlier, it's really about this fandom that exists already, and only certain films win that fandom. Only certain films get it. They are films that hover between sci-fi and horror. They kind of go between genres. So it's not like all of cinema is open. We probably can't do Casablanca expanded, as wonderful a film as it is, because the fandom is different, and we have to be very particular about which fandoms we go for. So Robin's sort of saying a lot of the films that we're kind of thinking about already, and there's a reason for that, not just because of those films, but because of the followings of those films.
I'm going to kind of start to wrap things up now, and I just want to thank everybody for being here, for being part of this, for being part of this introduction, for kind of backing this project, believing in us. We're absolutely on cloud 9 to be working on this project, and we want all of that. We want all of you to come with us on it. We want all of you to really enjoy this journey. At the end, we want you to treasure what we send you, because we want you to feel like you're part of it. And I just want to get some closing comments from. I'm going to start with Josh. How have you found your first Thingcast?
I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much. Hope I didn't give too much away.
Not too much, right?
As David knows, I tend to ramble and go off on tangents. But no, this was great, and I just want to reiterate how thankful and honored I am to be a part of this team. I mean, just going back to the question about like talent, like these, Ian and David have both made these phenomenal films already. They have these networks. They have shown, and Robin, of course, they've shown what they can deliver, and they've shown that they can bring the goods. And I just could not be, I'm low on the totem pole. I'm just trying to soak up as much as I can from this process and learn from the masters here. And I just want to say thank you guys for believing in me and bringing me on. And I cannot wait to see where we go from here.
You've been fantastic. You've been absolutely fantastic, Josh. And I love it. This is an amazing team. There's one thing I forgot to ask everybody, right? If you can, take a snapshot of the screen and tweet about it, and tweet if you enjoyed it, because we want more people to come to these. We want more people to interact with the cast and crew when we do these live events. As more than last time. So if you can share some thoughts or a screenshot of this on social media, it's at Thing Expanded on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That would be really awesome. David, closing comments from you.
I want to commend everyone who came and shared their time with us today to share your ideas and share your thoughts and already dive in. I'm just looking at the whole back and forth of what you guys believe or would like to believe about the thing. You guys are smart and you guys are knowledgeable, and we know that, and we are drawing from that. And we think it's wonderful that you're taking your time on your Sunday to be with us today and to share your enthusiasm about this film with others offline. That really helps us. So spreading the good word about the thing expanded and just your enthusiasm is something that's incredibly helpful. But thanks for being here today, everybody.
And the final word to Ian, I'll end on you.
Okay, well, this is fantastic. I really feel, we've done John Carpenter. Obviously, production is underway, but I really feel like the film is gathering momentum. There's all sorts of plans in front of us, a long journey to go on. But I'm so hoping that the thing itself, the film that John Carpenter created and gave to us in 1982, will talk back to me and talk back to us and create an equal, if not a better, to Aliens Expanded. I expect a very different film. It's the same format, but I'm expecting a different film. John Carpenter and James Cameron are different guys, and I'm looking forward to that. And it's an extraordinary thing to make these films, and it's terrifying, as I said, but absolutely the most exciting thing you can do. So I can't wait. I can't wait to get to next year, the end of next year, and have a finished film. I wonder what it's going to be like. I have no idea at this stage.
All right, everyone. So thank you, everyone, and also thanks to Andrew, who's in the background making all of this happen. And
real quick,
oh yeah,
the millennial in me says we should take everybody smile real quick, so we have one for the social.
Yeah.
If we were at a con, we'd have the crowd behind us, but this will do. Everybody just smile.
Thanks
3, 2, 1. Okay.
We're going to do a couple of things. So on the next invite, Andrew actually is going to set up a Google Calendar for all of these events, because some of them change times and it can get a bit confusing with the scheduling. And we're also going to set up a YouTube playlist. So if you miss one of these, you'll be able to watch a pre-recorded version. So you'll always be able to catch up. And other than that, have a great start to your week, and see you on the next one. We'll have some more updates for you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.